Hello, everyone! Welcome to the Rational Investor School for Trader Development. Welcome! You made it. This is our introductory module, which means you made it to the first class. Way to go. This is our level 1 program through the Rational Investor. Um, our Introduction to Capital Markets and Building Your Investment Plan program. Welcome to the program. It's awfully nice to see everybody here. We should probably start off, of course, with a little disclaimer. Make sure that we have all our bases covered. So please understand through the duration of this program, the Rational Investor provides education and training services only. Um, the services and material provided should not be interpreted as investment advice or an endorsement of any particular product, stock, option, futures, cryptocurrencies. And specifically, we're not shilling you to either buy or trade any particular product. We assume no responsibility or liability for your trading and investment results. And you assume the entire cost of the risk of invested capital and are solely responsible for the gains and losses. If anything, I always like to start these education programs with a simple suggestion that maybe you even touch base with your financial advisor. Ask them whether going through one of these programs is really in their best interest. And after you've gone through the program and you build out all the tools that we suggest, show them to your financial advisor, and I'm sure they'd actually be pretty darn impressed. But nonetheless, always a good idea to touch base with third-party, reliable, accredited, licensed advisors, and especially with regard to things like cryptocurrencies and trading different futures products around the world. Not a bad idea for you to check in with your local legal advisor just to make sure that everything is perfectly legal and you're doing everything on the up and up with respect to your local laws. If you want any more information about these disclaimers, feel free to pop on the website. I'd be more than happy to show you everything that we have on there. As well, Commodity Futures Trading Commission, CFTC, has a specific rule that we just must simply acknowledge that any examples that we use in these training materials are exactly that. They're examples, they're demonstrations. They don't assume that you are going to get the exact same fill because, hey, you know what, these are open markets and crazy things happen in trading. I mean, it's just a reality. So you're never going to get exactly the same fill, and so we should just be cognizant of the fact that these concepts are being imparted to you, in hindsight, if you had done this and look at that and that and that. And if anything, what we like to do on the site is we have the demonstration portfolio, which just shows you how this stuff works in real time. So we've got the disclaimer out of the way. Let's get on with the course. So what are we going to be doing here in this introductory module? First off, not a bad idea. We actually give you an introduction to who I am and why I feel as though I think I can help you in your quest to become a good investor and a good trader. Give you a little bit about my background, who I am, where I come from, what kind of jobs I've had in the industry, and hopefully that fills you with the sense that, yeah, Brian's been at this a little while. He kind of knows what he's doing. We're going to talk a little bit about the school and the way that our group tutorial classes work. So give you sort of a heads up what to expect. How should this program play out? And I'm going to be drinking a little bit of water as I talk here. We're actually going to be working together for probably a good 2 or 3 hours here in this introductory session. And the irony of it all is we're not even getting into the actual learning material. But this first week, we've got a lot of stuff to cover, all of what we're going through right now. So bear with me while I keep my throat nice and lubricated. Um, And just an FYI, we've actually broken this introductory session into 3 different video presentations. And as well, we have side tutorial video presentations on how to do things like book tutorials, how to get set up on the Thinkific platform, how to get set up on Rocket Chat as well. So quite a bit of learning material here just to get to the point of actually being able to actually be ready to learn. So get comfortable. Now, where was I? In this first video, like I said, we're going to introduce you a little bit to me and my background. We're going to talk a little bit about how classes work and how the school format is run. I don't know whether we're going to do this in the first video or not, or whether this jumps into the second video, but I think I want to introduce you to my basic 2 rules of investing, and that's pretty much what this whole course is actually based on, is these 2 very simple principles that, you know, if we actually execute them correctly, it actually becomes, it's difficult to actually lose money in the market. But, you know, the problem is it's very difficult to follow the rules. So we'll start off with just what are the rules and what do I expect out of all of you. We're going to take some time, talk a little bit about the importance of a plan-based approach. In essence, you know, our modern sort of marketing machine would rather you actually not follow a plan-based approach. It's designed to feed into your emotional side as a human being. You know, marketers like to hit your hot buttons to get you to act, and quite often when we make emotional decisions in the market, they're not usually in our best interest. So it's super important to understand that our whole basis of being a professional in the market is we follow this thing called the plan-based approach. We're then going to shift gears after we sort of given you an introduction to what it is that we want to learn here. We're going to, in the third video, we're going to talk a little bit about what you're going to need to succeed in this program. There's a whole bunch of different tools that we have to have in place, and it is your job through this introductory week to simply put all those tools in place. Now, we spoon feed you everything on a nice silver platter, so you can't make the argument that the resources aren't given to you, but you got to follow through and watch the videos and follow step-by-step instructions, and that's what the purpose of this week is there's so much there's so much sort of supports that we need to put into place to support us through our learning process that it actually takes a full week just to get all that stuff in place. And like I said, that's the purpose of today's conversation. We're going to finish off today's session with a review of the resources that you will need to be comfortable that are outside of the TRI environment. We make use, of course, of various different trading platforms, and it's your responsibility to bring yourself up to speed with whichever platform you're most interested in. And of course, all of them have their own various nuances. As well, we use third-party sites to do things like our technical analysis, our fundamental analysis, to mine the market for information, so we need to be familiar with those resources. And also, too, I like to make reference to outside sources as sort of, you know, like a bibliography, reference guide. So it's handy to be comfortable with those resources as well, so that, you know, if you want to go back and just, you know, get a second opinion, third opinion on something that Brian's talked about, you should be able to find the resource and the information relatively quickly. So, as you can see, we've got quite a bit to accomplish here today. As I said, I've broken this into 3 different videos. They should be about a half hour, 45 minutes each. So they're in nice bite-sized increments, but you got to do everything this week. So, without further ado, let's jump right into topic number 1, and that is a nice introduction to your instructor. Hi, nice to meet you. My name is Brian Beamish. You probably, of course, all, you know, if you've been on the site for a while, You probably hear my voice in your sleep through our daily brief videos. I do like to talk. You are going to have to get used to that. And of course, if you've watched me on the Coinigy videos that we do online, or even the broiler chicken shows that we do publicly, you probably already gotten to know my sort of my cadence, my approach. I'm a very real person. That's if it's one thing I think people on their site will definitely all agree to is that I'm about as real as it gets. And the great part about it in my life is, you know, it's not great, but, you know, if you know my personal story, you'll understand why I say this. But I don't have anything to lose. I mean, I am an open book. I don't come to you from like Lambo land. Um, I live in a very meager setting to help, you know, that's supported by the system because my son has severe disability. I'm not like Mr. Lambo guy. That doesn't appeal to me. But I am very real. And what I tell you is comes from the heart, and that's without a doubt. But let's get on to sort of what the reasons why I think I can help you. I have worked in the financial services industry for a very long time. I got my first job officially in the summer of 1988 as a credit control clerk on a brokerage firm in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Um, and um, and that was still actually very much in the world of very sort of analog paper trail trading. A lot of stuff was still done by paper and triplicate. I used to have to have forms signed with carbon paper and the whole bit. I mean, that's how long I've been at this game. In fact, when I first started, we used to have T plus 5. You had 5 business days to actually settle a stock transaction. That doesn't exist these days. And of course, crypto, it settles like instantly. And all of our futures transactions and options transactions, they all settle instantly as well. So the point of the matter here, I've been at the game a heck of a long time. I've done just about every job you can possibly think of in the business. The only part of the business that I really never got involved in is what they call behind the Great Wall or corporate finance, working on deals before they came to the street. But I was a broker for many years, and I was actually on the back end of a lot of those deals where the paper would come down and I would just basically shill it to the customers and myself. If I like the deal, I'd buy it myself. But as you can see here, not only do I have 30 years trading experience, and I bought my first stock back then, Nova Chemicals, if anybody wants to go look up when Nova Chemicals was back in the 1980s. It was a pretty popular stock. I've had 30 years trading experience. I was also a fully licensed broker, which we'll talk a little bit about. I advise clients on stock, bond, options, commodities, and fixed income products. I was a licensed broker for all of these arenas. So, and especially when it comes to things like commodities and derivatives, that's a whole licensing system unto itself. Total pain in the butt. But in a weird sort of way, I actually started in the industry so long ago, and I remember I had a very specific goal. I wanted to do everything, which is kind of sad in a way because over the years, I'd learned one sort of niche. And if I just stuck with that niche and just did the same thing day in, day out, I'd be so stinking rich I wouldn't know what to do with all the money. But no, Brian wants to learn everything. So I'd sort of go and learn something, learn a job, get really good at it, and then, okay, well, we're done that, on to the next one. So it's a good and it's bad because later on in the program we'll talk about pigeonholing. Which often happens in the financial services industry, and it can lead to a lot of sort of ego problems with people who no, my methodology is better than your methodology, kind of stuff. And frankly, I don't give a rat's ass about any of that. But my experience has given me the ability where nobody can come to me and give me a story that I haven't heard before. And man, I've like some of my favorite, craziest stories in the stock market come from those first few years that I worked in the business. And I've heard almost every story under the sun. So the good part about this journey that I've been on is that it gives me an extremely wide base of experience and know-how and product knowledge that I just don't think you can find actually too much out there. As I said a moment ago, I was a fully licensed equity, stocks, commodities, futures, right, and derivatives, options, swaps, warrants, rights, broker, as well as a licensed financial planner. In fact, even just being a financial planner was a licensing requirement. At one point, I had something like 9 letters after my name. It was like Brian Beamish, FCA, CFD, FCSI. I mean, just like all the gobbledygook. And it's funny in the business, right? Because it's so bureaucratic. Is that's how people actually sort of gauge your worth, is how many letters do you have after your name. It doesn't mean that you're actually a good trader. And the worst part about it is some of the eggy headest sort of university profs, and later on in the course, oh my God, do I ever lay into the university white tower nonsense, or ivory tower nonsense. Some of those like educated people, they make the worst possible traders, and they make the worst mistakes. And so I don't really buy into all that sort of the more letters you have after the name, the better you are. In fact, I would actually argue it's the exact opposite. Some of the best traders that I've known are guys that are from the trenches, right? And the only thing that matters is price action. And it doesn't matter how many letters you have after your name. If you're on the losing side of a trade, you're on the losing side of the trade. And the guys that are in the trenches and that are in the bullpen, and we used to have an old saying at one brokerage house that I used to work at. How does it go? You kill what you eat, and you eat what you kill. I mean, it's that cutthroat, right? That's that whole sort of Wolf of Wall Street kind of thing. And I've been in those broiler room kind of settings. So, but I personally have a lot more respect for those kind of people because they don't make stupid decisions in the marketplace because they won't eat. Versus a guy who's got like a million letters after his name and is some institutional guy, and he's collecting a salary. It doesn't really make a difference whether his call is right or wrong. Those are the kind of people that I really don't like. Anyway, the point of the matter here is I've done almost every game. I've been licensed to sell almost every product there is on the street. And I've worked in various different capacities, from being commodities to derivatives, which are completely different, to good old stockbroker, penny stockbroker in Vancouver, very, very different, to like financial planning, RRSPs. In fact, on the site we even have a group, that our RRSP group, where all we do is talk about financial planning issues. So the point of the matter here is I have a bit of experience in this industry. I suppose one could argue that I sort of hit my zenith when it came to the sort of education side of this thing when I received the designation Fellow of the Canadian Securities Institute. And that's sort of like the kind of equivalent of like sort of the industry MBA kind of idea here in Canada. And one thing I really don't like about the financial services industry is, we here in Canada, we're a heavily, heavily taxed society. And we actually get to the point, you can imagine every single year, each one of these licenses requires a fee to be paid to a bureaucratic entity. So 1, 2, 3 different licenses plus your financial planner's license, and then added on top, Fellow of the Securities Institute, annual dues and stuff. After a while, I got really sick and tired of the bureaucracy and the way how, like at one point to be a broker in Canada, you actually had to do what they call continuing education requirements, or pay people another fee right, for the privilege of listening to some, and really the experts in the financial services industry just come and go with economic cycles. So listen to this quote unquote expert that's deemed by who knows who that they're an expert. And I remember in 2006, the mining market was really hot heading into the Chinese Olympics. Copper prices were just ridiculous prices, zoomed up quite a bit very quickly. And I had to sit and listen to experts justify the cost of stock in the marketplace given that environment based on this, well, new metric for valuing properties, which was total baloney. Once the Chinese Olympics was done, the Chinese just simply pulled demand for commodities out from the market, and the whole market just collapsed. In Canada, the junior mining market, it just went into free fall. Why? Well, because prices were bid up to such stupid levels. And the worst part about it is to justify these fees that you're paid, have to pay to these bureaucratic bodies. They had, ivory tower people come out and bark down our throats that, well, given the new fundamental picture of the world, these valuations were justified. And it was total nonsense. So, yes, I sort of hit the zenith in the education process, but the irony of it all is I actually walked away from this whole business shortly thereafter I sort of hit this. It was sort of like, okay, I've done everything in this industry. If I stay in this industry, then in essence, you guys are just going to keep taxing the crap out of me. And what benefit do I get out of this? Because remember, my crazy adventure was I just wanted to learn everything. So ironically enough, in 2007, we actually started to see a lot of the signs that the market was about to break. And I just walked away from the industry completely. I just simply stood up and walked away. I took a few of my larger clients with me, and we created a little mini hedge fund, which we ran on Interactive Brokers for a few years. And really, I just hung up my licenses. I don't need them anymore. I'm just going to go into the market and trade. So you could argue this is sort of the peak of my education. And if you want to sort of Google, fellow the Canadian Securities Institute to learn a little bit more about that. But as I said just a moment ago, I would argue that, the real education is the market. And the market, you don't learn any of this stuff that actually makes you good at the market. I haven't seen any of this stuff taught in any kind of classroom setting, which I find really sad, But anyway, that's why you guys are here with me here today. And, it's one reason probably why our program has done so well. And we have so many people that come to us is that we're the only people that teach this stuff around. So go figure. I had as I said, 2008, 2009, we were running our little hedge fund, just having a lot of fun. A couple of my older clients were getting very old. In fact, I had one client of mine who was, partner of the hedge fund. He was in his 90s. And another partner was in his 70s, and he was considered the whippersnapper. And sadly, I had a horrible tragedy happen in my life. My wife passed. God rest her soul, Jojo. Um, and shortly after that event, it was decided that we should just wind up the fund. And the gentlemen were getting awfully old, and they were kind of like, maybe we should wind things down. It was obviously a dramatic shock. My son and I went through a pretty dark time. But interestingly enough, it was through that dark time that I actually set the stage for what I'm doing with you today. So in a weird sort of way, and I do get emotional, you're going to find this from me as your instructor. Like I said, I'm real, but as real as it gets. But coming out of that tragedy and me going through my period of mourning actually set the stage for what it is we're doing here today. And I probably wouldn't be with you guys here today if I didn't have to go through that tragedy. So, obviously, going through a period of mourning, wondering what I'm going to do with my life. This was 2010, 2011, uh, obviously, 2012. Um, a friend of mine actually came to me and said, Brian, it might be good for you just to get out and get back into the market and active. And so I went and applied for a prop crude oil trader's job. Prop stands for proprietary. It's a prop firm, proprietary firm. And what this just really means, if you ever hear this expression, it means that a third party is going to put up some money. They hire a bunch of people that they feel as though can make capital gains on those dollars, and then they just let those traders go and trade with that money. And in essence, the deal is, I think it was a 60-40 split when I was at Top Step. Um, and the deal is, of course, 60-40. And I think, I think it was 60-40. I seem to remember that was the number. Anyway, um, interestingly enough, and you heard me rant just a few minutes ago about my feelings about the bureaucracy and all of this licensing and continuing education and letters after your name, blah blah blah. I would actually argue my biggest accomplishment in my professional career was when I passed the prop firms. They call them combines, right? And you have to go through the combine and sort of prove to the community that you actually know what the hell you're doing. You're not going to blow yourself up. And yeah, I have like certificates and stuff like that. It's on the wall behind me. Sorry. In fact, you could probably even see it. It's right beside my son up there on the shelf, and my wife. Hi, Jojo. Um, so I would actually argue that my biggest sort of sense of accomplishment was when the boys on the CME, and I used to listen to them on the CME, literally on the floor of the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, asking what I was going to be doing in the market that day. What's that Beamish guy doing? Is he thinking long? Is he thinking short? Has he got setups? Blah, 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 blah. And I got to the point where, this prop firm said, all right, Brian, we think you're the shit. Here's some money. Go trade for us. And coming out of my crisis, my period of mourning, this is, I think, what my subconscious really needed to sort of validate existence, for that matter. Sorry. Um, and it was a very good thing. But the irony of it all, and this is, I think the guy who runs the firm, I talk lots about him, through the course. You're going to hear lots about him. The guy's name is Nebraska. His floor name, that is. I never really pursued it. I actually went through all of the training, passed all the exams, got funded, was trading with them. And then all of a sudden, this silly thing called Bitcoin came along. And it's like, uh-oh. And I could see that Hogue and Nebraska and all the guys at Top Step, they were getting more and more pissed off at me because I kept having my attention pulled away towards this crazy thing called Bitcoin. And it started out, I used to trade crude like Monday to Friday, and then on the weekends I'd come out and hang out on these sites like TradingView and stuff like that, and trade Bitcoin through the weekend. And then finally, and the interesting thing, right, is that I honestly believe that my wife sort of guided me from the other side. She told me that I had the opportunity to help a lot of people. It's just that I really needed to learn to listen. And when she said that, I knew that this was for real because I didn't like her saying that to me. But anyway, that's here nor there. And so I consciously made a decision because I could literally see where JoJo wanted me to go. I literally made a decision to leave the prop firm and Top Step and start this educational program for you guys. And I got to tell you, since we've done this, I started with my partner Julian, and it's interesting because Julian's last name translated to English means hope. Isn't that interesting? Fascinating. So it just clearly, it showed me, gonna get emotional. Sorry, guys. But it just showed me that, somebody on the other side was driving this bus. And if I just came to you guys and just gave you the straight goods and just was honest about what this life of a trader is like, that this is what she was talking about, how I can help a lot of people. And I can see it. It was remarkable to watch her in action. We have changed a lot of people's lives. So I apologize if I go through this education program and every once in a while you see me get choked up, but you got to understand, I'm being driven by a higher power here. Anyway, let's keep moving this train forward. So, I was a prop trader, had everybody on the CME going, hey, what's that Beamish guy doing, right? And I knew I sort of made it, and I knew my shit, and it was ready for me to actually start this. And really, I think, we're doing really good things here. So I think it was on balance a really good decision. I think everybody here should understand, and it's super important for you to realize this, we are all students of the market. In a weird sort of way, I don't want you looking at me and really anybody on the site as like, oh, up here, on a pedestal. We happen to have a few more miles under our tires, and people have sort of over the years have told me what to do and what try not to do. And the whole point of you taking this course is that we're going to try and get you doing the same thing. I'm no different than any of you. I'm just another guy in the market. In fact, I would consider all of us students of the market. The market is always teaching us. It's always evolving. I mean, human history is evolving constantly. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I mean, anybody who does tell you that they know what is going to happen, full of horseshit. And probably the easiest way for you to understand this is, you would think that something as significant as the collapse of the Soviet Union, the end of the Cold War, you would think that, any sort of future predictors would have been able to call that. It's a pretty big event in human history, right? And they actually did a study in like 1991, 92, 93. They went back and they scoured every single horoscope, every single prediction in newspapers and publications, and not a single frickin' person predicted the collapse of the Soviet Union. Now, you would think that's a pretty big event in human history. If anybody could see the future and know what was going to happen, you'd think that they might know that that was coming, and not a single person did. So the point of the matter here is anybody who tells you that they know everything about the market, if anything, you got to look at them with a jaundiced eye, right? And I actually make the argument quite often that as soon as somebody gets to the point where they say, and I know everything and I don't need to learn anymore, that's the guy you want to avoid. Because their egos are really big and they're going to set themselves up for disaster. And the sad part about it is quite often their stories end really badly. And after the fact, you go, oh, gee whiz, what a surprise. So try and stay humble, right? We are all students of the market. Every single day we learn something. I would also say too, though, and you kind of heard when I was talking a little bit about prop crude oil trader, then on the weekend getting slightly distracted by crypto. You can understand that on balance, I am an avid crypto enthusiast. In fact, I remember the days of programming in Pascal in rooms of terminals, where the mainframe computer actually was in another room altogether. So I've been intimately involved in this computer revolution myself for good 30 some odd years. And of course, crypto in itself is a great expression not only of computing and technology, but it's also, in a weird sort of way, I think it's like the people are trying to take the power back. We're going to learn through the education program that politicians in the early 1970s really messed with the financial system to further their political gains. And since that event, we live in this sort of make-believe world. where as long as you keep believing and you keep, swallowing the spoon-fed medicine, then everything operates. But the problem is that anybody who actually looks at the fundamental situation understands that this isn't sustainable. At some point, somebody's going to say, you do realize that emperor doesn't have any clothes on, right? And then when that day happens, oh boy, all hell's going to break loose. So not only am I jazzed about crypto from a computer and sort of, technology, science perspective, but I'm also really enamored by the idea that we can take back the power of currency and the power of money. And it's really interesting to watch that the sort of the higher ups, the 1%, whatever you want to call them, the Illuminati, dealing with this problem. And I don't think the jury's out just yet. Who knows how this story's going to end? I think probably the biggest message that I can possibly impart on anybody in the public is to be diversified. You don't, anybody who held just German marks in the 1920s, they could have been a millionaire at the start, and they're broke halfway through the decade. So the key here is to just keep your options open. Be diversified. Have exposure all over the place. And what's really interesting is if you're really well diversified, your portfolio becomes like this lava lamp where, some assets swish up, some assets switch down, but in essence, you stay relatively stable. Of course, if you're just in one asset and it goes up or down, well, it's going to be a pretty volatile life for you. Okay, so hopefully that gives you a pretty good idea of who Brian is and why I feel like I can help you guys. Do I have the professional experience? Do I have the working experience? Do I have the mental capacity? Have I done a number of different jobs? Have I done different roles that can help you get to the point of actually making money from trading? Now let's talk a little bit about what the actual objectives of the education program are. And this is just sort of like your 10,000-foot view looking down. What is it we really want to try and achieve here? So number one, and this is really important, is that the program is designed to take anyone, regardless of whether you have experience investing and trading or not. In fact, the irony of it all is that the people that have absolutely no experience whatsoever and come to me as a completely blank slate, they often do better because I don't have to sort of undo a lot of the baggage that people that have a little bit of experience get into. They always say like a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing, right? So a lot of people come, they learn a little bit of something, and then all of a sudden, the wheels fall off the tracks after a while, and they can't figure out why. And so what we have to do with them, unfortunately, is sort of backtrack to figure out where the problems start, hit the reset button, and then start moving forward. But the point here is that this program is designed to take anybody from zero to full speed running a small business of trading. That's really what we're trying to do here is, you can call it a business and register it as a business if you want. It can be your just personal account, can be your retirement account. But if you approach this as a small business, and in that regard, it's a for-profit entity, we're trying to make money here. If you can run it as a business, then the whole equation changes. The student here, through this program, you should leave with a few simple objectives that I want you to pretty much master. I want you to be able to have a conversation with anybody, anywhere, anytime on these topics and be able to carry your own. In fact, we make lots of jokes through the program about the cheeky little girl at the cocktail party trying to trip you up. We want to make sure that we're sharp with all of our definitions and we can carry on a debate with anybody on any topic. So first objective is we want to give you a basic understanding of the current capital markets. Now, what do we mean by that? What is cash? And actually, it's a loaded question these days, right? What is equity? What is what they call fixed income? What is a commodity? You know, it's really interesting educating people who are cryptocurrency enthusiasts to try and figure out which asset class crypto actually falls into. And is it even realistic for us at this point to consider the cryptocurrency market mature enough to even consider taking over the classic fiat currency system? We also want you to understand the basics of sort of the socio-economic framework that we're working. Concepts like demographics and capital flows, and how given different demographic situations, economies will actually act differently. And the interesting thing about that is a lot of the policies that we see by government, their attitudes, why they're acting the way that they are, it makes complete sense once you understand this concept called capital flows. A big objective of this course is to leave you with an understanding of what rational analysis is. You know, Brian paints himself as the rational investor. So if I'm going to teach a course, guess what? You're going to get a big old dose of what rational analysis is. You also, and this is probably the primary objective of this course, is I want everybody leaving this program. Oops. How do I do that? Oh, come back. There we go. Everybody leaving this program with a fully individualized, customized trading plan. If you are a higher time frame participant, well, maybe we'll call this your investing plan. If you are trading lower time frames, then maybe we'll call it your trading plan. Ironically enough, the difference between the trader and the investor is nothing more than just time frame perspective. But the point here is that this plan is about you. So we have to actually build out this plan based on what you're going to input into the equation. And no two trading plans on the back end of this school program look exactly alike just because there's no two humans. You could have two humans that are identical twins, and even if they are absolutely identical, they will look at the universe differently just because of their life experiences. And each and every one of us has our own unique kaleidoscope of the way that we look at the world. So as a result, your trading plans are going to look exactly like you. They are going to be a reflection of you. So as a result, no two trading plans look alike. And a huge objective of this school program is to equip you with that individualized trading plan. And then finally, and we really cover this in the second half of this introductory program, but we're going to teach you how traders build what we call setups. And you have to understand and you will understand this as we go further and further into the course. Regardless of whether you're a trader or a day trader or a swing trader or a position trader, a trader or an investor, they're all really the same terminology. Like I said, it's just a question of time frame. But each and every one of us must work with what we call setups, and that is preset conditions that if we see this happen and this happen and this happen, then we're going to do that. And based on our vetting of this setup, we have a psychological confidence, a subconscious belief that at least 66% of the time we're going to see our desired results. That's what we call a setup. Um, it defines when we enter. It defines exactly what we're going to risk to, what level we're going to risk to, and then because that number is a set number, we can actually figure out what a realistic profit objective is based on ratios. So, and like I said, this is, I'm not going to teach you about setups here just right now. That's just a nice simple overview. But that is a huge objective of this program. Okay. I think, on balance, all of you should be able to lead the program both understanding all of my published charts. And you could argue a big reason why I did this education program to begin with was because I had a lot of people when I did the Coinage show say, well, hi, Brian, how do you use that tool? How do you use that tool? When do you use that one? How do you use that? So I was like, okay, fine. I'll just put it all together in a nice, pretty package for you, and that's what this course is. A huge objective is for you to be able to come out of this course understanding everything that you see on my price charts, but also, too, it's really important that you come out of the backside of this course understanding how professionals act in the marketplace. In fact, I often tell students that they have a responsibility. Once you've taken this course and you pass the exam, you are, in my eyes, an emissary of good behavior in the marketplace. And I see it resounding, especially through this relatively young, inexperienced marketplace cryptocurrencies. I see how our demonstration of best practices, a guy that I like to work with in the crypto space, Alex Sturck, he always likes to call it me financial literacy. But, keep in mind, crypto people are pretty darn smart people, right? These are, engineers and doctorates and stuff. But nobody's ever taught them financial literacy, and that's pretty much what we do. But the point here is that if you can complete this program, you are now, in a weird sort of way, you have a responsibility to go out and spread the gospel. So not only do I want you to understand all the charts and be able to understand the language and risk management, but I actually want and need for you to pass the information along to the next generation. Okay, I think what we'll do is we will go through how the school program, the format of it, and how classes will be run. And then we will finish off this introductory video and get you ready for the next video. So, nice simple overview here. Everything that you need to succeed in this program can be found on either the Thinkific platform or the Rocket Chat interface. And my suggestion, if you want to pause the video now, is go and watch the walkthrough videos, and this link should be highlighted by time class starts, to help you get set up on either of these platforms if needed. They're fairly straightforward, so it's not rocket science, it's rocket chat. Sorry. But long and short of it, everything that we're going to do through this education program now is either going to be through the Thinkific platform or the rocket chat interface. And everything that you need to succeed should be found there. As I just said a moment ago, all class videos, course curriculum, module information can be found on these pages. So when in doubt, check out either the Thinkific platform or the Rocket Chat. And of course, this is your interface with all of your classmates. So take advantage of this resource. It's an incredibly powerful resource. As I said, we're going to be following the Thinkific platform curriculum. So I've already said that, as you already know. And any additional desired resources, if I want you to watch any extra videos, if I want you to be looking at setups, they can all be found in the library page on the site. So just pop on the site, pop in the library, and anything that you could possibly need on top of what else is provided in either of these two platforms should be found on the library page. We're going to be running 2 group tutorials this term, Saturday and Sunday, and the tutorials are about 2 hours in length. You only need to be at one. In fact, you don't have to attend the tutorials, but they are a great way for you to get answers if you have questions. And last term's group tutorial document, I think it ran about 100 pages. So really, really good information there, and a great way for you to interact with your peers and interact with whoever's running the group tutorial. It will either be myself or it will be one of our site veterans that we feel are, they're in the TA pool anyway, and we feel very confident that they're going to give you the answers that you need. It's really important, guys, that you understand that you're expected to watch the current week's lectures, and like this week, there's 3 different videos. And, various weeks, there might be 1 video, there might be 2 videos, there might be 3 videos, and complete the assigned quizzes before class, right? Because keep in mind, the class/group tutorial is to answer your questions. So how can you have questions if you haven't gone through the material? So be sure to watch all of the material ahead of the weekly lecture, the weekly group tutorial, beg your pardon, and try at the very least to answer the quizzes. And then, of course, you will have a bunch of questions. Come to the tutorial, you can get the questions answered. Group tutorials are specifically spent answering topic-specific questions and reviewing the quizzes. So in essence, every single week, bring those questions. We will spend that specific time talking about that specific week. I would highly suggest to you, don't fall behind, because every single week is a brand new topic, unrelated to the previous week. Don't fall behind. If you fall behind, it's very difficult to play catch-up. On top of the basic school format, the lectures, and then the group tutorial sessions, we also offer the service of additional tutorial pool for those people that need extra help. Quite a few people I found in previous terms could just use maybe 1 hour or so just working with one of our site veterans, just to make sure they have all their ducks in a line, right? And all their tools are in place. Did I understand this correctly? And if you need, maybe, and let's say the fundamental analysis week, we go through various different screens, and you need help understanding what some of the specific terms are, you can always ask in the class group tutorial format setting. But if you still feel like, I could really use a bit more help in incorporating this idea into my trading plan, then we have that resource available for you. As we sort of talked about with the Thinkific and the Rocket Chat, we've created a walkthrough video how to book a tutorial. And so if you need help, please watch that. And as I said just a moment ago, it's a good tool for those people that are feeling like, I just don't know whether I have this solid yet or not, to just do nothing more than just review the trading plan and review course concepts that maybe might have gone over your head. And answer any specific questions you might have. Okay, I think we're going to leave the first video at that, so maybe everybody go take a break. We'll start up the second video of this 3-video series, jumping into some of the bigger sort of concepts that we need to sort of wrap our head around before we actually get into the actual learning. So we'll bring an end to this broadcast right here, and I will see you all shortly.